Hey class, my name is Jeremy Lozano, and the human service agency I decided to do my interview on was Thrive Youth Center. What Thrive Youth Center is, it's LGBTQ homeless shelter that provides shelter for those who identify as LGBTQ and are between the ages of 18 to 24. They're located inside Haven for Hope. They're just I guess they're a partner with them. They're not necessarily part of Haven Hope. They're just located inside their facility. Um, it's a really small organization. They only have 8 employees, but they work really well together to provide services for this demographics and then this type of community. It was an amazing experience. I interviewed a gentleman named Greg Casillas, who is a life skills manager at Haven for Hope. He's been there for 2 years. The agency itself has been around for going on 5 years. It'll be 5 years on February 25th, which they're gonna have like a little 5 year anniversary. And they're actually the day I did the interview, he was they had a meeting earlier that morning where they're organizing and coming up with ideas for their 5 year anniversary. Come up with like a fundraiser or something to, of course, provide more funds for their organization, which leads me to the only funding they do receive is they receive two kinds of funding. One is strictly donations, and that is how they house people at their Haven for Hope Center. Their campus inside Haven for Hope is all through donations. They don't receive any kind of grant funding or any federal funding. It's all through donations. They receive some donation funding from Coronation, which is a fiesta event held every year. It's like a essay life skit, and they choose several organizations to donate to every year, and Thrive Youth Center is one of those organizations they donate to. They also receive funding from an individual who lives in New Mexico who owns a hotel business. He donates 5,000 every year, which is really incredible. And of course, they receive fundings from all sorts of other places as well, Facebook, online, on their website, um, and also other places. They also do receive other stuff like socks, shoes, toiletry, hygiene kits, stuff like that. Anything that could help, the youth on their everyday life. Also help them. The hygiene kits could also help them, essentially, find a job. They could look presentable and help them out find a job, so they could, after they leave the Thrive Center, they could hopefully, be able to live on their own. So the Thrive Center also houses these individuals in the actual Thrive Center for a year. It's a year. After the year, they're able to reapply again, depending. But their whole role is to make them self-sufficient in that year that they're housed there, so that they could eventually, live on their own. I'm sorry, and also another funding they get, it's through the HUD program, which is the Department of Housing, Urban. I forgot what the acronyms mean. I have written down somewhere. But that funding source helps them with apartment housing, so they could house up to 20 individuals in their own apartments for a whole year. So and if they're unemployed, they cover the whole rent. If that individual is employed, they cover the individual has to pay 30% of their income back towards in that program to stay on that program, and that's a requirement, and it's called the HUD grant for short. And that's the only two funding sources they receive. So the HUD grant and donations for their campus inside Haven Grove. And there's Greg also gave me a starting statistic where 40% of the 18 through 24 homeless youth are identified as LGBTQ. And that's alarming, because that just tells you, a lot of people who identify as that demographic, eventually, almost half are probably going to be homeless. It's because they get thrown out of their home or stuff like that. Just a difficult upbringing, not being accepted. So that was a starting statistic. And also know that Thrive Youth Center is the only LGBTQ focused homeless shelter in San Antonio, with and 2 in Texas. So Thrive in San Antonio, and there's 1 in Dallas. But the one in Dallas only houses up to 4 or 5 individuals because they only have 2 beds, and that is pretty crazy to me. So just alarming statistics out there. Definitely a need for more homeless shelters that focus on LGBTQs. Again, 40% of the homeless population are LGBTQ or identify as LGBTQ. So those are some alarming facts and statistics I found out through this interview. Puts a lot of stuff into perspective for me as far as what I want to do and stuff that I do, especially also being myself, being part of that same community. So it just definitely put a lot of things into perspective for me. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot of interesting facts. It was overall a great interview. I really enjoyed this assignment. Life could be really hectic, especially being a full-time student and a full-time worker. But this assignment really was really informative and helped me out, on my personal life too, and career goals as to what I aspire to do in the future. So it was really great. I'm going to submit my paper, and hopefully you guys like the information and and questions that I asked Greg Casillas in our interview. If anybody has any further questions about what I interviewed or about Thrive Youth Center, please feel free to contact me and let me know, or also look them up on their website. All right, well, this is Jeremy Lozano, guys, signing out. Oh, and the website is thriveyouthcenter.com. Sorry, thriveyouthcenter.com. Thank you, guys.